If you are new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hitting that subscribe button, you won't miss any of the new tutorials that come out. These are free art lessons for you in airbrush and pencil and pastel, not to mention some really cool videos, how-tos, and tech gear for artists. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. The bell icon will alert you when new videos are coming out. Hey guys, how's it going? Good to see you. We made it to yet another Wednesday. We have Wendy, Jersey Joe, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. So I'm just going to get rid of this text here on the bottom. Fantastic, we are all set. I can't believe it's another Wednesday. Time just sort of goes by really fast, huh guys? I'm telling you, it's like a blur. It really is. So we are finally at part 5 of painting Lady Gaga. I'm very excited. This is the conclusion. We're going to do as much. Willie, good to see you. How's it going? Happy Wednesday, my friend. So we're finally at the conclusion of this particular painting, and as usually my live streams go about 5 weeks, so I'm very, very excited. So right now I already have my 6:21 mixture in here, which is really perfect because when we do start the airbrush up again, we always want to come in with a very diluted mixture. And the reason for that is that with that diluted mixture, we can just get reacclimated and get warmed up again. So that's why you always want to do the 6:21. The ink, of course, I use is the Super Black India ink by Speedball. They're a sponsor of this channel, and so that's very exciting. This is the best ink for this technique. Also, the paper I'm using is the Canson 184-pound cardstock, and also the airbrush is Badger's Extreme Patriot Arrow. They are all friends of the channel, so it's great that we're able to show you these products. Raul, how's it going? Good to see you. So great you're here. Happy Wednesday, my friend. So what we're going to do now, even though I was painting just a few minutes ago, working on another piece, I'm just going to go ahead and just do some dots and dagger strokes, stuff like that. See, like we have a different angle today. So just some dagger strokes, some dots, just to get reacclimated with everything. So that's always important. So I'm going to move Lady Gaga over, and we're just going to maybe adjust the air pressure a little bit, lower it down, because it is a very diluted ink today. Make sure the airbrush is working perfectly, no tip dry. All that stuff, all those things are important. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start right away, and let's make this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my reference. That's just going to take a moment. Okay, so my reference is here. Great. Okay, so right now we're just going to get reacclimated with the portrait of Lady Gaga, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and refine some of these transition tones right here. Modeling the form, that's a quote that I put up on my Facebook channel, my Facebook page yesterday, and it was by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. Those who know me know that he is, you know, my favorite artist through history, and he said that we should go after the modeling of the forms as a fly does on a piece of paper, as a, you know, very deliberately, and go over everything, feel the form like the fly does on a piece of paper. So that's very crucial. Ray, good to see you. How you been? So Ray's here, and we've been talking to Ray for a while. He's a very talented painter. So Ray is doing these portraits, and he did one using the Masonite board, the very one that I work with from time to time. So it was very cool. So everyone say hi to Ray. And of course I have the live stream so I can see I'm way over here. So I can always monitor and see if I have the live stream on the television, so I can definitely see if anything looks weird now, which is good. Before I was at a mercy of someone telling me, hey Tim, it doesn't look right. You know. Yes, that definitely is. Is there a cap on the airbrush? Definitely, Joe. The Extreme Patriot Arrow has this plastic cap, and I never ever not put it on there because the few times that I did, it was a disaster. Because look at all the angles I work at. And I make sure it's nice and fastened. I work at a lot of crazy angles. That's just my technique, and also the fact that I want you guys to see what I'm doing. So I may go at an angle that's a little bit different than if I was doing it without that. So you might hear a little bit of fan noise. Jersey's getting a little hot now. It's getting close to July, so I don't have the air conditioner on. I want to save you from there. And Jersey Joe says, thanks Wendy. It's black, I couldn't tell. Oh, my Micron B doesn't, and I don't like that. Yes, it's true. You know, not having the a cover on your cup is actually precarious, to say the least, right? I like that peace of mind, especially, you know, how agile I am with the angles that I paint with. Now Wendy says something about the Aztec. Oh yes, Wendy actually uses the Aztec for the SB, for the CMSBS. Yes, so, and actually on Wendy's suggestion, I went ahead and purchased it myself. I actually have one for when I do use the CMSB, but I'm using my Micron, I'm actually using my Badgers mostly lately. Thanks, Wendy, for that great information. That's so helpful. Yeah, Wendy looks stuff up before anyone. She'll have an answer before you know it. That's one of Wendy's talents. She's amazing how she can look things up. Oh, right. So it is for the side feed. That's correct. Now, Jersey Joe, I have the Sotar 2020 Slim, which is very similar to, oh, the B is different. Okay, the B has a small cup that's sort of slanted like that. Okay, so the Sotar Slim is really great. It takes about 3 drops of paint, but it does have a little ridge here. But I find any more than 3 drops and it's dangerous. So you might, Jersey Joe, with that CM-B, you might want to think about just limiting the amount of drops that you put in, and that might be an answer to it. But still, anything more than 2 to 3 drops on that one, you definitely are running the risk of that. And there's, you know, I think everything, right, Jersey Joe, is a trade-off, you know. I love this little guy, this Sotar Slim. It is fantastic. It's like working with a mechanical pen. It really is. I also did a hack here where I removed the back part, and now I can actually get to the needle a lot easier. So I recommend doing that. And as far as this one, the Extreme Patriot Arrow, my hack to this was to get rid of this high roller trigger. I felt that it was counterintuitive for me. So I took this out, bought another one for like $4, put it in. The great thing about most of the Badgers is that the triggers are interchangeable, so that's really cool. So very quick side note today. Now this is something I think that's really fantastic that I actually learned today. Now if you look at freehand shields that you use, along the edge you'll have either paint or ink that actually builds up and when it dries. So when you go ahead and maybe you're pressing down, you know, on this side or whatever, I found that you can actually deposit some of this residue on there. So that is a problem. So the resolution that I found was to take some Windex, spray it where it's dirty, or the whole thing, and just take a paper towel and clean it between uses, and now you have a very clean freehand shield that's not going to leave any residue from past paintings. So that really helped me, and I thought I would share that with you guys today. Gloria, good to see you. How's it going? What's new, Gloria? It's always cool when Gloria is here. So right here, it's a little interesting as far as the edges are with this dark. There's some interesting shapes where the corner of the mouth, of Lady Gaga's mouth, sort of comes up. And then we're going to take our airbrush and our eraser, and we're going to use the mono eraser. And what we're going to do, let me get my trusty gloves, so this way I'm not smudging the surface, depositing oils from my skin. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start working on those little details here. Now, what you want to see when you're working are the borders and how those borders actually line up against values next to it. It's not just this soft, always soft, uniform transition. That is a recipe for your work looking very amateurish. So you want to really see what's going on here. That's going to go a long way. It's going to go a long way to paying attention to what you're doing, but the fringe benefit to that is that it starts to look really realistic, and all of a sudden there's a likeness that you didn't have before. That's that little extra paying attention, little bit extra. Heath, good to see you. How's it going? So I'm glad you're here, Heath. That's fantastic. And so what we're going to do, Heath, is we are continuing to look for those little details where one value sort of is adjacent to the next, like a border. You know, the border between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. It's not a straight line always. Sometimes it meanders. Same thing with a peninsula. So you want to think in those terms. And I think, as you can see, all of a sudden now, that looks a little strong right there. So I'm going to be a good distance away. Let me show you guys. So you see I'm a good distance away, and I'm just going to dust that area, just calming it down a little bit. So it is nice to get to this stage, but this is the fringe benefit of all the hard work before we got here, right, guys? So Ray says, had a spill with my SBS once, and after that I just put a piece of masking tape over the top and poked a small hole with an X-Acto knife. That is actually an amazing idea. It's so amazing and it's so simple, Ray. Why didn't I think of that? Oh my God, why hasn't it been thought of before? That's a great idea, Ray. Wow. See, that's why I love these live streams. We all put our heads together and we really teach each other a lot of great resolutions to ideas that have been racking people's minds for a long time. Sort of like a mastermind group, right, guys? That's what this is. So we're going to continue to move around. And I like the idea that you put a little hole, because you do need that hole, of course, to, create that, to keep that vacuum from happening. So you see right now, this area right here in the corner of her mouth is really key. Everything here has a very succinct border. So, why New Jersey looks New Jersey, that's so important, because of the peninsula. Wow, so Willie says, Tim, the likeness is amazing on this one. Thank you, Willie, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jersey. So I really appreciate that. Oh, he says needs some more. Also adjusting his pricing. I created in Excel, so easy to edit. So so what, Heath, are you selling? Let me see. So I did miss what Heath. If you could just say one more time what you're selling, because that would be cool. If you're selling, I definitely would be interested in anything that you guys have going, and I would mention it on the channel. So I take care of my followers, that's for sure. My subscribers are like family, And we are just working on here. See the corner of the mouth there? Like these little details, guys, these are the things, but I don't want you thinking about this until the very end of the painting. So, that's something that comes later, sort of like, when you know someone for a long time, then you really get to know them. But you don't really want to get to know, ask questions before you, in the beginning that you meet someone. It's very similar. So you want to get to that real, individual sort of things that makes this person who they are, that one person in all the earth. You want to look for those things at the very end. See, and all those different aspects here that really make this young lady who she is. Oh, okay, so I know Wendy was talking about her cat painting, right? And Wendy, thank you so much for the kudos on the likeness. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun when it comes together. Now, if only you can get Miss Gaga to see this painting so she could purchase it and put it in her collection, wouldn't that be nice? So I'm not coming in with the white yet, because of really the first 45 minutes, what I want to do, guys, is I want to get reacclimated to the painting. I want to do some of the real subtleties, because I'm still at that very thin, very thin dilution here. Now right here we have a definite shape here. You see this sort of, it's a very transition tone between this white area, light area, and the dark is a transition tone. But it's a definite shape. So we want to draw while we're painting. And the shape is not something that's uniform in the sense that it's very light and translucent here. Then right here, it gets very dark, right? But over here, it's still translucent, but a little more opaque. Okay, so you do see that little transition tone right there. Now, it's not just a line, because Lady Gaga's skin, as all of our skin, is very irregular. So with that irregularity, the shadow is going to go over the different bumps on the skin. And that's everybody, every person. Only robots don't have that. But as you can see that transition tone really working now, really working that transition tone. Oh, thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Now, during this time, I may miss a couple of questions, but re-ask them, because right now I'm just working on the end game here. The end game is a little more involved. So just re-ask the question if I miss it. Okay, so right here, you'll see that we have just a little bit darker right there. Now, you would think that there's other things going on the other side, but this side is the light side, right? And this side is the dark. Oh, well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. Thank you. It just comes together, and, your portraits are really fantastic. I really love them, Ray. And so I appreciate that so much. So as you can see, since we do have a lot going on this side of her mouth area, since the mouth is turning, we're going to have to indicate, if just a little bit, of the same thing on this side. Now in the corner of her mouth, there's going to be very slight modulations over here. You have to do that, otherwise it'll just look very flat, And now over here, same thing. So we do have, sort of the fulcrum here, right? But over here on this side, it's too much of a line here. You see how that's very linear? And it is a line, but not a, a pure line. There's a lot going on here. A lot of ins and outs. And that needs to be addressed, of course. And you do have a few highlights here, which if we do put them in, it'll go a long way. But let's set up that highlight. And how we can do that is we're just going to dust the area a little bit. So this way, when we put the highlight there, it's going to show up a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's use this fabric pen this time. And let's, hey, how you doing there? How's everything, Bill? Good to see you, man. So we're going to do some little bit of highlights just here and there, just to create some texture. And that's going to go a long way, it really will. And if it's too ardent or too strong, we can always dust that down. Now, what I like about Lady Gaga is she's very beautiful, but not in the normal sense, the stereotypical way, but she is just as stunning and a challenge, really, as a portrait painter. And, it's just really nice to do that. So you can see right now, I do have, and am going to go ahead and dust this over here. And then we can dust down those highlights because they're a little strong. And we can just dust them down. Now, if you notice, I'm a good distance away. There we go. So, as being that distance away, you get a much more blended look, as opposed to if I was trying to do that up close, I would really start getting textures I don't want. You really want to get those soft gradations. So you want to paint in 3 dimensions. So you want to paint in 3 dimensions, meaning, you have the air pressure, and you have how far you pull back, you have the dilution, but last but not least, you have the distance. All those different things, those 3 dimensions are the ones that are going to really come together. Gloria says she loves the eyes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ray says, I'm only on the 4th airbrush painting ever, and I found that the erasing techniques are almost more critical than the application. It really is. I mean, it's really great. It's an added thing, and I use those erasing techniques in my pastels and everything now, which is really just a fantastic technique that you don't learn in art school, which is really cool. So right here, as you can see, I like moving around a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten up this little fold between her eyelid there. But I want to keep it soft, as you can see where this line is, right? I want to keep that soft, so that's why I'm not going to erase all the way to the edge. I'm going to let that stay soft. Same thing here. It's a little lighter at the corner here. And I want to keep it soft. There we go. See, all these little things at this stage are just like really bringing it together. And it's a good feeling, it really is. Now, you got to make sure that when you're at the end of a painting that you don't get too involved into the trees. Still see the forest, still look for that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit here. But make sure I keep that whole idea of watching the edges. How does one value buttress up against another? Now watch this. I've been pastel painting for like 30 years, so I can manipulate pastel, and that's an advantage I have over other painters who never did pastel. And this is something that you guys could do, you guys could learn from me, is that you want to manipulate the pastel, white pastel in this stage. Yes, you find that you do erase a little bit less as you get more and more experience, because you're pretty much hitting those values right off the bat. So I agree there, Bill. But it's still like a great technique. So I'm still a good distance away. Still with that nice distance here. And I'm just enlarging that. Oh, Wendy, happy birthday to your son. That's so cool. That is so great. Oh, wow. So congratulations, Wendy, and say happy birthday to your son for me. And so as you can see, we are continuing to move around here. Now here, you'll see that there's a little transition tone that I didn't get. So what I'm going to do is address this. Now we do have some dots here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm not just putting a tone and saying, okay, got it, that's the value. No, you want to see what exactly is happening when this transition tone is hitting this dark here. And you're going to have to dust over it again, because you're going to come out and sort of lighten this with the eraser, but then the value is going to be, you know, out of sync with everything. So you just want to be at a good distance, and you want to just see, if I'm at a good distance, think about it, you know, it's much lighter. So let me see if I can show you guys, just illustrate the point. Now right here, I'm just going to lower the aperture a little bit on the camera. So you see here, I'm close, right? And I mean, just even like without the spidering, look at the value here. Now, if I'm a further distance away, then that value is much smoother. I'm even further away, and then look how light and smooth. I'm using the same mixture. And that's what I talk about painting in 3 dimensions, guys, how important that is to work in 3 dimensions. And also, whenever you can, we also want to make sure that we are always, you know, paying attention to the model, pay attention to what we're working on so much. You want me to do your makeup? Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. Yeah, I could make you look like, I don't know if I would. I can make you look like Lady Gaga. That's what I'm going to do, because I. So there's a lot of nice things going on here at her chin here. Some nice texture. Now these textures are so subtle, guys. So I'm rocking the trigger back and forth. Oh, so Bill says he's going to paint you like a dragon lady. So as you can see, when you're at the end stage, it's a lot of searching, moving around, and just enjoying yourself. So right now I'm doing those little lines in between the highlights on her lips. Very important. Little baby dagger strokes. So I'll tell you what I do when I am some downtime, which is very rare, but as you can see, you know, I still do my dagger strokes and my dots, and you know, all the different things here, which is very important. So that's something that you definitely always want to do. Always want to go ahead and practice as much as possible. So as you can see, just moving around, keeping things fresh. That's what we're doing right now. Let me raise the aperture a little bit. I think I made her a little darker. Now, pretty soon we are going to go into maybe another 10 minutes. We're going to start going into our really dark accents. But let's see if I could go ahead and just work a little bit on the microphone. The microphone's not important, but I'm just going to work on it really quick. Now the thing is, those little circles are not lining up. They are sort of catty-cornered with each other. And what I'll do is I'll come in with the dark accents, really bring this together. And you know, I have that very light dilution, so anything I do now is going to be very light. Go. Okay, so as you can see, that's just a very light indication of the microphone, nothing too crazy. Oh, Wendy says if I could paint Lady Gaga's voice on her. That would be interesting. If I could do that, we'd all be rich. If I could make somebody sing like someone else. But I'm sure do you have a good singing voice there, Wendy? I'm sure you do. I can't sing to save my life. Now, the importance of texture is very, very big here. So you want to make sure that we are keeping things. Now, the whole word of the day, or the principle of the day, are edges. Even right here, you see this edge here? That's absolutely crucial. Because if you don't get it right, her neck is going to look like something that's not organic. So this cast shadow of her head onto her neck is very important to make this believable. Rocking the trigger back and forth. Whoa, okay, rocking that trigger back and forth. Let me hold this. Now at the end of the painting, you're going to have slight warping if you're being economic with the surface, meaning you don't oversaturate the surface. So that's very important, but even at the end, you're going to have a slight warping, and then you'll see that the work sort of sails a little bit, but nothing that when you framing is not going to fix, nothing gets in the way of the painting. It's not like you can see it, it's just a slight warping. interesting. Right here, we have just a little indication of something with her neck there. So I'm just going to put that in. Now over here, you have something happening, which is a little musculature here. Now I'm pretty far away from the surface. See that? It's a little tiny things here and there, which all together are going to make huge dividends with the painting. Okay, so here we are. So as I'm looking around, I am definitely surveying everything and all that. Oh, okay. So such a great voice and entertainer. Shame she suffers from fibromyalgia so bad is almost totally debilitating. Oh, that's horrible, Ray. I mean, that's good to know. I mean, it's great that she rises above that, right? Yeah. And fibromyalgia is rough. And oh, I'm so sorry you have that too, Wendy. Oh my God, that's rough. Okay, so right now we're just continuing to clean things up, look around, and make sure that we are getting the borders of these values next to each other. See right there, a little overzealous. And I'll start over from a distance, see if I can fix that, and then if I need to come closer, I will. Remember, start far away and then go down if you're working on large areas of tone. So don't start working on a large area tonal close. Bad idea. You want to be a distance away, you know? I don't want to kill my paper, so I am going to there we go. Yeah, keep that value close. Now right now we're doing value relationships. It's not as dark as it will be once we come in with the darker value. Now, so we're moving around and we see we have a little darker side plane here. And what I do is I'll triangulate a lot. I'll see this mole and that mole and the mouth, and I'll figure out where exactly the indication of her sternocleidomastoid over here. Actually, no, this is her mastoid process, I think. Right here? I think so. No, a zygomatic arch. Forgive me. This right here is a zygomatic arch. I don't know, you know, sort of had a brain fart there. Okay, so now we're going to go over here where her nostril meets her cheek. And there we have some lights here and there. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply some of the white here with the white pastel. And then watch, I'll take the stump and we'll just sort of blend that in. Darken where we want to by rubbing it in. Where we don't rub it in, it stays light. And that's manipulating pastel on this surface here. So like I said, this is a very action-packed part of the painting. So if I don't see your question, please re-ask it, because right now I'm looking down. Because this is a very important part of the five-part process. It seems like all the hard work is done. A lot of the hard work, the heavy lifting is done, but now is like bringing it all together, and that's very crucial because this is where we are going to get to the point where we can sign it and say, okay, I'm done. I did my best, on to the next painting. So as you can see, you know, this is a very crucial part. So like I said, it's not just so much that you have the nostril and then the cheek area. No, it doesn't work that way. The nostril and the cheek area are sort of, you know, have this interchange here of playing back and forth. where edges get lost and edges get refound, rediscovered. Now there are times where you'll see like, wow, I can't erase that edge, you know, but that's okay because we're working with paper and we're working with pastel. So that's the advantage we have over all the other ways of using the airbrush. This would be impossible if, you know, we were working on, let's say, a car or something like that. But then with a car, you have better erasing techniques and stuff like that. So as you can see, I'm just rubbing in some of that. But you can see where we have lost texture and found texture, which is very cool. So these little areas of lost and found texture are so important, and lost and found edges, because it's going to be what really makes this painting stand out. And it's realistic in a way that's not photorealistic, sort of in a way that sort of makes it feel more sculptural. But sculptural in the sense that we're just paying attention to what's happening. We're not getting too involved in detail, but looking at what's happening with the form. Just like Angela said, you want to search for the modeling like a fly moves across the paper. So you see, this is a voided side. It's very light. Here's the shadow side. There's a lot going on, but that doesn't mean that over here that we don't have to describe the form. We might have to look for it a little bit harder because we don't want it to look flat. So even if it's not there, you could go ahead in the computer, you could raise the contrast, you could lower the brightness, and then you could find that. So even though this might not be as dark on this side as I'm making it, but the trade-off is that the piece is looking very three-dimensional and feeling more sculptural. So as you can see, you know, when I'm working, you can feel that cheek just under her eyes face the light even closer than, let's say, this bottom part of her cheek. So you do those things and it's really going to help your work, and just bring it to that next fine art level, which that's my whole thing. See, I'm a fine artist. I studied at the best art schools in New York City, scholarship student all the way. I was blessed, right? I learned oil painting and pastel and drawing, all from the model, all from artists whose works are at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And so I had a certain mindset. So, and then for about 25 years, I was painting on my own with pastels and drawing, and then I discovered airbrush, and now I'm keeping that mindset with the airbrush. And I think that's really is good because it's a fresh way of looking at things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put those two lights right here. And wait till we start coming in with those really nice darks, guys. Okay, so I'm looking at the screen, guys, and if anyone has any questions I missed, please go ahead and let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have on the technique. So I might keep that, it's a little bit lighter, but I kind of like that contrast and that interest there. So putting the pastel on this little stump actually gives you more control. You can go much lighter, you can spread it out, so that's very important. And then right over here we have some light areas just on the top of the upper eyelid. Hey Mike, how's it going? Good to see you, my friend. How's everything? And we are going to go ahead and now we're going to work on the ear back there. And we do have some lighter values. And, you know, we definitely, even though the ear is a subservient part to this portrait, it's very important for the anatomy of Lady Gaga. So we are going to... Hey Bradley, good to see you. How's it going? So glad you can make it. So basically, guys, we are working on part 5. And this is a good part, and I do love the part 5s. The final part is sort of showing you guys my sort of technique for bringing a painting home, so to speak. And oh, so you got the 2020 Slim. So tell me, what are your reservations with it? When you said, are they good reservations? I mean, you said it's not what you thought it would be. Is it something that you were pleased with or not pleased with? Because I'm really enjoying it, and you know, I really love the way, but I love hearing other people's, you know, true confessions of what they feel of, you know, different airbrushes and different supplies. And we don't do texture stencils here. But, you know, as you can see, when you're doing texture, what's so important is the space in between. So making sure you don't overload the surface and lose that texture. So you want to make sure that you have spaces in between your lighter strokes here. Mike says you can't. I can't pull a hairline with it like I could with the Tamiya H22 with a 0.2 setup. Interesting. That is interesting. You know, I think it's a new feel, right? So it is going to be a little bit of a growing pain with that. But you know, definitely, you know, we all have our feelings about, you know, what feels right to us. There's no right airbrush for everyone, but I'll tell you, the Slim is I have a good time with it. But definitely, I appreciate your thoughts. Now, do you find that it is not as responsive as your other airbrush, or what are some of your findings? Okay, I can understand. I definitely really enjoy it. It works for me. I do like the fact that it does have this, you know, sort of low streamline, which is really fantastic. So let's see. Ray says we have spent tens of thousands of dollars going all over the U.S. looking for a cure. I'm so sorry about that. And so Mike says he only has it for 4 days, so it could be subconscious. Of course. Well, not that. It's just you got to get used to it, you know, Mike. And, you know, it's a learning curve. And I had to get used to every airbrush that I had. When I got my first custom micron years ago, I was like so angry because I didn't feel as good as my Eclipse, but that was just me not giving myself time to break myself in, as well as break the airbrush in. So this sort of stippling effect going down further here is I'm just going to make sure that I pull these lights just down closer to where her cheek meets over here, like the cylinder area of her mouth. And making sure I'm getting that sort of irregular edges. Even though the values are so close to each other because it's very soft, we still have to make sure that the edges are correct. So I've been working on the videos, editing the video for sale, some of the full-length videos. That's been rough, and also updating the website, everything, trying to offer a lot more and trying to, get this technique like really, really off the ground as far as making it more worldwide. Oh, that's right. It's almost time. That's true. So we definitely have to make sure that we set that up. The 1027 reauthorize the chat, right? So that would be a good time to go ahead while that's happening is put in our dark accents. So Ray says he thinks he's going to get in touch with Ken at Badger to see if they have a 2020 FAT. The one that couldn't lose the weight and become a slim. That's pretty funny, Ray. That's a good one. Over here on her nose, it's not just this flat area. There's some modulations here, albeit very subtle. We want to try and just indicate that, maybe even accentuate a little bit, just to get a feeling of where her nose sort of turns, right? It turns, and this corner of her nose right here is hitting the light, getting the light more than anywhere else. So it would be okay to accentuate that as long as we don't lose the lightness. It really would help the sculptural feeling of the portrait. It's not a portrait commission, so I can go ahead and do some things that are a little more radical, and so that's something to always look for. When it's not a commission, you're the boss. If you want to change something, that's fine. Commission's a different ball game. Not many people are going to be all too excited about not being exactly like the portrait reference. And let's go ahead and so we're rocking the trigger back and forth. Then it's slightly darker on this side of her nose. I'm just gonna just accentuate that. See that? That's not in the photo, so that's something that I'm doing for myself. I know that this side of her nose goes down. It's going away from the light Not as much as this side, but still nonetheless, because the light's coming from this direction. So you see, if I modulate that mole, I go further away as I am making it lighter. So, like I said, working in 3 dimensions makes your life a lot easier. These little changes here, where you see a dark. Now, I used to look at the work of Giuseppe de Ribera, 1600s. He was a Spaniard painter who lived in Naples. So he got to hang out or get to know the artist Caravaggio. So if you look where you see a dark on the skin, chances are there's going to be a light right next to it. So always look for that. That sort of interplay of light and dark. So you see a dark accent, there's a light accent right next to it. And that's a principle. It's not always going to be the case, but look for it and you'll find it. And we are just going to get some of this lost texture here. Now I'm not forgetting the forehead. Forehead has some textures going on. We're not going to leave that void. We're going to pay attention to it. So as you can see, moving around, keeping things fresh, and also making sure that we're constantly drawing even though we're at this later stage. So you see this lip is a little bit too big and the edge is a little bit harsh. So we're going to go ahead and soften that, and only with the magic of the pastel can we do that. And by doing it with the stump, we're really in control over what value that we put the white. So almost like we're still working with grays. So here we have this beautiful sort of specular light right here. And I'm just going to hit this with the fabric pen right there. You know, I think it really shows some moisture. And that's really important because we are working with a person's lips and you know, so we want to make sure that we get as much feeling of different textures and different dryness and wetness and all those different things. I think will go a long way, making this a very interesting portrait. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to create interest, you know, and let's see here. So right now it is 10:33. So right now I think, actually what I'm going to do is, since it is 10:33, I'm going to keep my Extreme Patriot arrow filled with the light, with the light mixture. So I'm going to take my Sotar 2020 Slim, and we're going to put in the dark mixture with that guy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move Lady Gaga away. So far it looks like I did not have to change the authorization. Looks like you guys are still able to chat, which is very cool. All right, so what I am going to do is I'm going to take a cup, I'm going to take my ink, and we're going to do 6 and I would say 6 and 3 because we want really dark, right? So we're going to do 12 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now we're going to do 6 of the water. We have this different view here. So we're going to do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically we're doing a 2 to 1 ink to water ratio here. Now when I say ink, that's drops of ink to full 3-inch eyedroppers of the water. Now, since we do have, let me just park this one over here. Since we do have this here, we don't want to ever, the Sotar Slim, Mike, you never want to put it in like that. You want to be very precise of how much ink that you put into that airbrush. Let me get my other hose. One moment. Oi. Okay. Okay, so I have my other hose here. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the Sotar Slim. Lower the air pressure a little bit. All right, so like I said, you want to use a separate eyedropper, and you want to put 2, 1, 2, 3 at most into the airbrush. Anything more, when you're moving around, is going to be too precarious and dangerous. Okay, so let's get Lady Gaga again. Actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and test this. Get reacclimated with the darker mixture. Making sure the airbrush is working fine, feels good. Now I am maniacal in the sense in how I clean my airbrush, so the chances of my airbrush working perfectly is a lot better than other artists, because I clean my airbrush immediately after I'm done working. I don't care if it's an 8-hour shift and I'm going to lunch. I'm going to clean that airbrush. I don't care how advanced you are as an artist or whatever, not cleaning your airbrush is going to hurt you. So, you know, when you hear those those bravado, I leave my airbrush dirty for 2 days and it was fine. No, I'm sorry, it's not fine. It's never going to be fine, and you're never going to ever convince me that that is a good way to do it. And I see so many airbrush artists say, I don't clean my airbrush for days. Yeah, but that's why, you know, they're having trouble trying to get it fired up. So let me go ahead and reauthorize this chat here. Okay, almost there, guys. So this is sort of like our intermission here. I'm just putting in, there we go. So clean your airbrush, guys. Always clean it, clean it, clean it. Outside, inside, needle, everywhere. Just, you know, it's never a good thing, ever. And it's not a, you know, never a good thing, you know. And it takes you, what, 15 minutes to clean an airbrush that is, you know, that's upkept, you know. And it really doesn't take that long, you know. So definitely do that. So Heat says, where do I get my mixing cups? Definitely, this is at Walmart. It comes with the tops, the 50 count, and it is about $3. Really great. Great value is the brand name of it. So right now, guys, I have my Sotar Slim fired up. I'm going to lower the air pressure a little bit. And what I'm going to do is we are going to hit some of those dark accents. So let me go over here. Okay, so dark accents. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look for areas that are even darker. We're going to enrich some of these darks here. And it's just going to make things pop. When you, at the end, when you come in with the dark accents, guys, what you are doing is you are making those midtones pop and look much lighter. You're making the highlights, making the rich midtones richer, the highlights look richer. So this is sort of, I'm going to lower the air pressure a little bit more. That's another thing, guys. If you have different max valves, even of the same brand, please be careful not to know that you have to adjust different MAC valves differently. So, not even same brand, they're not gonna be exactly the same. So you might have to adjust them a little bit differently. So even with these eyebrows, you can see that there are parts of the eyebrows that are darker. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit that. See that? So we're getting more volume, more contrast within that shape of the eyebrows. Now I'm going to go in with the pupils. Now I'm not going to stay in the same area, even though it's not getting as dark as I want. I'm going to move away because I don't want spidering, not at this last stage of the painting. So I'm just going to do one layer, move away, go back in, I'm tempted to go in here and do these darks where the folds are, but they're not dark. So when you're doing dark accents, please be very mindful of the values. Don't put dark accents where they don't belong. That is just... Now if I went really dark with those folds of her eyelids, it would just really just change the painting in a bad way. I also find when the compressor is going off, it's usually a bad thing to continue painting. Let the pressure continue, and let the pressure the compressor go off, and when it's done, go back in. Because what's happening is when you're airbrushing inside the tank, it's unstable, and you definitely don't want to be airbrushing when the tank's going off. So that's something that I found over time, guys. And Ray says, Tim, you're an incredible detail artist. Thanks for letting us watch you practice your trade. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Wendy says, Tim, add the fabric pen to your Amazon product list. Good idea. I will do that. Definitely. So right now, just to reiterate, we are going into... Now I'm also going to show you guys something that you could do. Here is something in my Amazon stores, the Winsor & Newton Cotman 333 rigger brush. And what I like to do is just go ahead and use this sometimes to get some of the tight detail. And just really show you guys that, there are other ways to get things done. Just like that. And make sure you pay attention to the space of the eyelashes, as well as the size of the airbrush in relation to size of the eyelashes in relation to one another. Here we're just going to do some individual hairs. Nothing too crazy. If you do a couple here and there, it's going to go a long way, just giving that impression of the texture. You don't have to go crazy, right? So you see that? And then we're going to go back with the airbrush on this eye. But let's just go ahead and see where we can do some really fine textures here and there. That will really help. So let's do here the dark accent at the edge of the nostril there. You see that? And then we'll do some dark accents here. Now here, remember, there's very little contrast on the shadow side. So you have to be very careful that you don't put too much contrast, because remember, it's a shout, the values and the contrast on the light side. On the shadow side, it's always like a whisper. So make sure you still make sure that it's a whisper and not too loud. Even though you can see it with your eyes, we have to restrain ourselves, right? So that's very important. Okay, so we're just going to rinse this off. Mike says if you have air fluttering, doesn't that mean that your pressure regulator is bad or weak? No, not really. I think, because I have a fairly new air compressor, and I just found that, you know, while the compressor is going off, I find that it's just not, it just doesn't feel the same. And that's for different compressors and everything like that. So make sure that, you know, you just let your compressor run its course and then go back to work after it's done, which is only a few seconds. That's why those compressors, those small ones that go off all the time, it's really not a good solution. I really recommend getting a compressor with at least 2 gallons, 2-gallon tank. So you'll find that makes life a lot easier, the continuity of work and all that. Now you're going to do your dark accents, but you're still going to want to, you know, pull out the airbrush that has the, that has the diluted mixture to do some areas that are very fine detail. So as you can see, I'm switching off to the 6:21 ratio right now, just getting some detail that I see here and there. And then we're going to come back with the dark accents, and then we're going to go in and really attack the highlights a little bit more, and we're going to call this painting done, which is going to be very cool. And I really appreciate you guys sticking with me for the 5 weeks, and really a lot of fun doing this. So let's see what we can do now. Dark accents. So let's go to the microphone and see if we can go ahead and make some things happen here. You don't got to go too crazy. You just got to indicate the texture of this microphone. I don't think it's all that crucial. Rembrandt didn't get into all the craziness of certain aspects of his painting and or his subject, and the same thing, you know, it's like, remember, perpendicular, never parallel. There's some very, you know, unique instances where you will have to go parallel to a freehand shield, but perpendicular, and always clean it in between applications, because you don't want to be moving wet paint or wet ink in this case. So learn how to use your freehand shields. They are going to be very important ally. Okay, hold this. Okay, so you can see we're just getting an indication of that. And so what I'm going to do now, we are going to go ahead and soften up some of this because it's turning, right? The form is turning. Just like the rest of everything, the microphone is turning into space as well. Being affected by the same light source. And then we can go ahead and we can take our mono eraser and we could go ahead and indicate some of these lights here. Nothing crazy, just here and there. See that? And I think that goes a long way with sort of showing that texture. Then over here we can, now there are some little spaces in between. I'm just going to put my ink right there. Hold it down. Now I have the dark mixture here because we're doing dark accents, remember. Then I can come back in with my pastel pencil here, or fabric pencil, and we're just gonna hit some of these. Over here, it's a little bit darker. So Wendy says that shelf is adorable. What shelf? Is there a shelf somewhere? Oh, shield. Oh, okay. 'Cause I'm like, I don't have a shelf. Oh, thanks. It is a cute little shield, huh? They're very helpful, I'll tell you. Okay, so now we have, so we just indicated that microphone there, nothing crazy. Now let's go ahead and work on this cast shadow here, which is pretty dark. So we're going to go ahead. Now, remember, in the shadows, or in the shallows, like the song, right, guys? Now, in the shadows, you're going to have whispers. So I'm not going to put a freehand shield here because it's in my best interest to keep this pretty close in value. So I'm going to go ahead and darken this with my dark mixture here. Now look, I put 3 drops into this airbrush and look how long. I haven't had to refill yet, which I'm going to any second. But still, you see 3 drops in the Sotar lasts you quite a bit. So the Sotar is a very formidable airbrush for me. It's doing everything I want it to do. It did the fine detail in the airbrushes, and now it's doing the larger values here. Always looking at the edges, right? Always paying attention to edges. There we go. So you see we have this dark edge here, which is a really dark value. And then right here we have this here. That's a dark value that's close. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pump the trigger. And we're going to try and get that value close now. Because now we have that relative value. So we can darken up here, darken up over here, and keep this other areas kind of on the light side. So speaking of the light side, maybe we can go ahead and just lightly feather here and see if we could lighten up some of these values just here, just to give an indication of more going on in her chin area. Same thing here. We can just lighten this up here. So this painting will be available for sale. if you know someone who might want it. It's going to be on my website, paintingglyphs.com. Probably tomorrow, if not later today, I'm going to put it up there. Now, so over here we have a little transition here. Let me just hold that down. And what we can do now is, since we do have this dark mixture, I'm going to run out pretty soon, but I'm just going to go ahead and darken this up over to the side here. So I'm going to take my eyedropper, and we're just going to 1, 2, 3 drops in the Sotar. Okay, so two things about the Sotar you don't want to do. When you feel it's running out, you don't want to put the last couple of drops on your artwork because it will spit. That's any airbrush. Also, when you do any airbrush that you reload, you want to make sure that you do your first tests on a test paper and not your artwork, because you never know when you refill ink into an airbrush what it's going to do. So many mistakes happen because of that. So right now I am going ahead and I'm darkening up this dark here. So these dark accents, as you can see, are doing a lot, Bradley says, my ink doesn't erase that easily, probably because it's older than dirt. Oh my God, yes, that's bad. Yes, it's older is worse, definitely, because it loses a lot of the moisture and then it becomes so much more shellac, much more carbon, that sort of thing. Willie says the Sotar 2020 is awesome. I agree, I love it. And I just love the fact that it just feels like I'm working with mechanical pencil. The more you work with these airbrushes with Badger, the more you fall in love with them. And not just anything, right? I know Mike said he liked his airbrush, and because, we become accustomed to it. We get emotionally involved. I get emotionally connected to my airbrush in the sense that, it's doing what I want it to do. I know what it's going to do. And we adjusted to each other. The airbrush adjusted to me using it, and I adjusted it to it, right? So let's go ahead and reload. Now, that's the one thing about this Sotar 2020 Sun. You have to reload a little bit. But everything's a trade-off, Every airbrush is a trade-off. So that's something that I find and I live with, So remember, first couple of sprays on test paper, like so, and that's basically the best way. Never do your initial sprays. Now, if you do that, you're going to find out the hard way. But if you don't do that, you'll never have to worry. That's the great thing about these live streams and the videos I do. I keep a lot of people from having disasters and just keep the airbrush as fun as possible, right? I hear stories of people not airbrushing anymore, and that's one of the reasons why I love doing this, because I want people to enjoy their airbrush. And a lot of people say, well, why don't you work in color? Well, you know what? I do work in color. I worked in color for many, many years, and I can work in color. But right now, I'm helping people who were ready to throw away their airbrush, who told me, I hated airbrush, I put it down, I never touched it again, and Tim, I can't believe it, your technique is really, I can really relate to it and everything, and that just makes me feel good. So I don't want to lose that aspect. And Willie says, I was emotionally involved in the $600 that my watch cost. Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, it's hard not to get emotionally involved with that, right? That's hilarious. Yep, but Badger is, it's not going to kill you. financially. So I love that about Badger. And you ask me, you know, it might take a little more work to get it up there, but you'll be working just as good as a Micron. My guess, he says he loves his Tamiya until the tip split. Now I'm stuck with the 2020 until I get a new fluid tip for the Tamiya. You know what? It's good. It's good to, I hope you get your Tamiya fixed real quick. But it's good, you know. You might find that, you know, you'll fall in love with the Sotar. You might have to give it a little time, and it might not happen, but, you know, you might find that all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this Sotar is so great. When I first got my Extreme Patriot Arrow, and everyone knows how much I love that Extreme Patriot Arrow, right guys? I didn't like it. I didn't like it at first. I didn't touch it because it had that like big trigger, you know, and I'm like, it made me make mistakes, you know, with the big trigger, it had blowouts and everything. Then one day I'm like, you know what? I really like the way this airbrush feels and the detail I can get. What if I change the trigger? So I went ahead and spoke to Gaston. He told me what trigger to get. I changed it, and now that airbrush is the one I use all the time. I mean, we're talking 98% of the time I'm shooting with this airbrush right here, which is the Badger Extreme Patriot Arrow with the smaller trigger. This thing is just kicks butt. The amount of detail I can get is just sick. The low air pressure, I would go head to head with anyone with an Iwata with that airbrush, honestly. So you see I enriched the blacks here, and I will probably do another coat after we're done here, before I actually put it up for sale. But as you can see, it has a really nice nice texture here. Now let's go ahead and darken this side here, and let's go ahead and, for that, load it up. 1, 2, 3, no more than 3 dots, Mike, with the Sotar. Any more than 3 dots, we're asking for it, because it will spill. Even though it does have a nice lip on the edge, it will spill and just be a disaster. Like I said, guys, if I missed any questions tonight, this is a little involved. You know, I want to get as much as I can in here. I want to really show you guys what it takes with my technique to finish up a painting, moving around, closing things up, getting those rich darks. So right now we're doing those dark accents. We're trying to get the form turning as much as possible. And okay, so let's go ahead and work on this nice hard edge here. So what I'm going to do is just going to turn this over, and I am going to hit this edge with the freehand shield. Remember, perpendicular. You want to have those variety of edges, guys. There we go. So a nice perpendicular edge. Wipe it before the next application. This is a nice soft edge here. And this is all soft edge, so I don't got to go too crazy. So just as you can see, that's a very slight little thing, but that will go a long way in the overall ambiance of the painting. So right here we have some soft edges where the hairline meets the side of the forehead here. So let's go ahead and soften that up. See how we're softening that up there? Really important. Now we have this nice dark accent. Let's go ahead and exploit that to hit some of these hard edges within the hair. Perpendicular, guys. There we go. Just creating some little more interest and texture in their hair. Steve, how's it going? Good to see you, man. Sorry I didn't catch you till now. How you been? Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Ray says, do I keep track of the time I spent on a drawing? Not really. You know, the drawing, you mean like the drawing time, the preliminary drawing, or actual pieces that I've done? I try and keep track, because that really helps me if I'm spending too much time on something, or you know, why am I spending more time on this one, let's say, to another one. So yeah, definitely, Ray. Like I said, this is a fun one. It wasn't easy, to say the least. Let me go get some Blackbeard wheat. So hold on one moment, I'm just going to go get some. Here's a nice healthy piece of Blackbeard wheat, as you can see. What I'm going to do is we're just going to just spray some here and there, just to get some organic textures. Now, Blackbeard wheat you can get anywhere. You can get them at like a Hobby Lobby. Well, no, I haven't really seen it anymore. I think I seen it at AC Moore the last time I got some Blackbeard wheat. But it's hard to find. If you do see it, pick it up. That's for sure. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead. We're going to still work on that hair, even though it's a minor area. We want to make sure we give it the attention that it deserves, you know. Micah says, Tim is a great artist, but you can't paint beauty from ugly. No way, no how. I appreciate that. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, as they always say. Ray says, overall time. Oh, yeah, overall time, definitely. It's, you know, lately I've been pretty much documenting everything with video. Even though I'm not posting it, I pretty much, everything I paint, I video, you know, and so I have everything. So yeah, I find that, you know, one of these paintings usually take about, I would say, between 6 to 10 hours in that area. And 6 to 10 hours is a sweet spot for this technique. Sometimes more, but rarely. But since I videotape it, I really have exact time periods. So I'm taking this fabric pen. Now, with the fabric pen, you can see if you hold it further back, you get a much lighter, more organic feel than if you held it close to that. So that's something that could help you. So we have those nice dark accents now, guys, and that's really helping. And we're going to put some dark accents here and there again. We have some stray hairs here. probably not showing up, but that's okay. It shows up in the actual artwork. Okay, we're going to take our Sotar with that dark, and we're going to try and get some of the volume here. Go. And then we can just dust the whole thing back. Good distance away. And we can always go back in with the hair. You don't want to get too involved because you can get lost. But hair is like anything else. You just got to stick with it. And that's my whole technique, is just stick with it, guys, you know. And let's see. Wendy says, great idea to video everything. Steve says, beautiful voice, beautiful star-spangled banner. So that's cool. And let's go ahead and work on just a little bit more of the hair here. Perhaps we could just create some interest. Only here and there. You don't want to go crazy, right? You want to have some hairs come forward, some go back. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it with the hair. Maybe we'll just dust it back a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we are getting close to the end of the painting. So let's see if we could just clean up now. Now it's cleanup, okay? So we're at this other stage where we're actually cleaning up. So we have a little bit of overspray I don't like right over here, and we can actually fix that. We don't have to worry about erasing. We're working with pastel, and we can just pretty much get rid of the overspray like so. And you might want to apply it a little faster. So the amount of pressure that you put on the stump is the amount of white that will actually be taken off. There we go. Now we do have a little bit of an accent of white here on that edge. There's a penumbra or an atmospheric effect right here. So this is all cleanup at this point, guys. This is the end, so this is where you're sort of making your last statements of the piece. But I think this was a very good series. A lot to learn. So go ahead and watch these over. They're all going to be, you know, on YouTube still. Now, Steve asked, what pastel am I using? Now, it's cutting out. I think that might be your system, Wendy, because I think we have a really strong connection here. So I would check your system, you know, your internet connection. Now, the pastel that I use, I just bought a brand new one. This is right here. This is the Pit Pastel, Faber-Castell. It is the white, and you can see it's 1122-101. It's a very good white pastel pencil, the best on the market. Oh, you're having storms, so that makes sense, so definitely. But yeah, we're pretty good over here. So right now, what I'm basically concentrating on is that there is a penumbra here, but we still have to have an edge of the form. So I'm just gonna apply it, and then we'll come in with the white, with the stump. So we're getting a little bit of a harder edge, but we're still getting that sort of glow from her shoulder. See that? Which is cool. This would be an impossibility if you were going over it with white. Impossible. Oh my God, so be careful, Wendy. She says that there are tornadoes. Mike says, Tim, when you finish a pic, do you sign it with a brush or an airbrush? If it's a black area, I will do that, Mike, with something like this. If it's a light area, I'll just use a pencil. I never use an airbrush. You know, always whatever's easier, right? So that's what I always try and do. Let's just go ahead and hit some of these lights here. I'll tell you, it's fun, these last stages, the last stage, because it's kind of, you know, you try and get as much in as possible, right? Now off camera I may go ahead and work on that microphone a little bit. I don't want it to be about a microphone, so I'm not going too crazy. Let's go back to my Extreme Patriot Arrow with the 6-21 mixture. Mike says that the chat locked up. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Mike. And Bradley says, stay safe, Wendy. Steve says, it's the icing on the cake, Tim. Now, what's the icing on the cake, Steve? Oh, finishing up. Yes, exactly. Finishing up, putting in the last touches. It truly is the icing on the cake. So look at this. We have a little bit of a line here. And I want to show you what the Extreme Patriot is capable of. See that little line? Watch this, guys. I'll go head to head with anyone working with a micron. I work so much with this airbrush that I really know how to get everything out of it. But the fact is that I can, and that it is possible. Okay. Definitely, the end is the icing on the cake, guys. Now let's move on over to the other eye real quick. Okay. So see how everything was more of a, on the other eye was more of a shout, and on this eye the details and the contrast is a more of a whisper. You want to pay attention to that. If you have too high of a contrast, it's really going to hurt the reality, the realism of the painting. the amount of detail that you're able to get is ridiculous. Like I said, I'll go head to head with any micron with this airbrush. But also take into consideration I am airbrushing about 6 hours a day with this airbrush, so that does sort of change things. Ray says he keeps waiting for that eye to blink. Thanks. I appreciate that. Okay, so now here's a good thing. Since I'm zoomed in on that eye, let's go ahead and realize that we can just lighten things up just a bit here. Just to remember, the value differences are very close. So I'm not coming in with white at all. See that, just that articulation here of the under part of her eye. Ooh, I went in with wrong airbrush. Okay. Now, we have a few minutes left, and what I'm going to do is dedicate that to the eye, to the forehead. This is an area that I have neglected a little bit. So I have the very light mixture, the 6 to 21, and with that 6 to 21 I can do some very subtle gradations here and there within her forehead, but nonetheless we want to make sure that we feel that yeah, Bradley, I understand a lot of people have to work and everything gets in the way, right? So I love the fact that I can, you know, get 6 hours in a day, and I really am happy about that. I have to edit videos and I have to do other things plus a part-time job, and so yes, I do have to be away from the airbrush, and I understand that some of us have to spend more time away from it, and you know, hopefully, you know, Bradley, you'll get to spend more and more hours you know, doing what you love, and everyone here is very talented, so you know, that's my wish for everybody, to be able to do it and still, you know, have the money to pay for things like food and lodging and a little bit extras, and you know, I'm going to start doing some things about selling the work, and I'm going to do an ebook on selling your art, which I think will be very, very good. Okay, so you see I went ahead and I created some value changes here. Now I'm going to come in with the white pastel, and we're just going to very lightly indicate some form within her forehead. So I really appreciate everyone who's here tonight, and thank you for spending your Wednesday with me. I love it. So as you can see, by paying attention to the forehead, not as some, you know, slick thing, you know, this sort of cylinder or flat surface, once you realize that it's not a flat surface, that there are muscle and bone in the forehead, and it is articulated, and it is facing the light at different angles, then you'll be looking for that. And then all of a sudden things start to have more expression. Forehead is very important for expression. So that's why you want to pay attention, and you want to make sure that you are really really getting the correct edges within that, because that will change her expression. You know, how her forehead is, these little lines, these little muscles here, that will make a big difference from him looking surprised or happy or sad. So here we are. See right here, now guys, I can continue this forever. You know, a painting is always abandoned, it's never finished. So I hope that today I kind of was able to impart what it takes to bring a painting together, sort of how to make it more of a cohesive picture, a painting, you know. Bradley says, Tim, do you put the white pastel on another piece of paper, then pick it up with the stump? Exactly. And now also Willie says, I wish I had 6 hours a day to paint, but I'm glad that I don't have to depend on it to make a living. I would die of starvation. You're very good. You would do well. But yeah, that definitely puts pressure on me with the artwork that I normally don't have. So yeah, it does change things a little bit. So definitely, it's nice that you have other means of income. That's important. Making money from the art is really, really rough. Steve says, fantastic, Tim, great work. Always a pleasure watching you create. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And so who wants so sell what to you? Are you interested in this painting, Steve? Let's see. Or maybe you're talking about something else. Okay. So what does so Steve, what do you want someone to sell it to you? Maybe sell an airbrush or something? Oh, okay. Yes. So this one I was going to put up tomorrow for $150, and I definitely would sell it to you, my friend. Be my pleasure. If you were interested in buying this, it would mean a lot to me to have my work in your collection. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. And to sell this would really mean a lot to me. So I can't believe we're close to the end of this, huh? This has been a fun experience, I'll tell you, from the beginning. The beginning part, you know, remember part one? Part one is always sometimes, you know, I kind of say, how am I going to pull this off? And a lot of my subscribers are like that too, but, you know, it comes together, you know. I'll tell you what, Steve, for you, 125, you got it. Sounds good? So I will not put it up, and we'll IM each other to figure out, you know, how much it costs to ship, and I'll put a little frame on it for you. Okay, Steve? So 125 sounds great. Heath, you're leaving. Have a good night, Heath. Take care, my friend. So always feel free to IM me, message me, email me if I didn't get to a question because I was busy working on this this portrait here of Lady Gaga. Let's put some just little shine here. Look at that. Just right like that. And then we'll just do some accents here and there. There we go. Look at that. There we go. So there we are, and let me just do a little more to just increase the realism here. Just a little bit of little water lines right there. Okay, guys, so this has been Lady Gaga. We'll do with the details, Tim. Thank you so much. And Willie, thank you for everything. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me. We did it. Part 5. She is completed. And Steve, we will talk about the sale of this piece. So I really appreciate it. Wendy, thank you so much. So I will put this back up later tonight, so you can watch it in its entirety. It'll be on my blog, on my website, as well as on YouTube. So thank you very much for everything, guys. It's been fantastic. I hope you have a great week. I love yous all.